Welcome to Magnify Your Message. Inspiration magnified.
The keys that unlocked my prison could also unlock someone else's prison. If I could share that story, that you can get out of and create anything you want from bankruptcy, foreclosure, repossession. You could buy a house, you can buy a car, you can start a company. And so that was like the beginning.
Today on the Magnify Your Message podcast, I sit down with home inspector Rachel Oslund. Following in the footsteps of her Welsh stonemason grandfather and her construction savvy father, Rachel is breaking barriers in the world of home inspection. What began as a kind of apprehensive step into an 100% male dominated field has blossomed into this inspiring journey of empowerment and education, proving that her father's encouraging words, "You'll be really good at this," were more prophetic than either of them had imagined. Rachel created something innovative called the mock home inspection program. And what she's done in the process is transformed how real estate agents understand and explain homes to their clients, especially first time and first generation home buyers. Through her teaching and her mentorship, Rachel shows us that the most valuable tool in a home inspector's arsenal isn't a flashlight or a moisture meter, it's the heart to teach. If you have lived in a home or plan on ever doing so, you got to check out this episode. Rachel is inspiring. She's a gas and she's become a friend. I can't wait to share her with you. You are going to love today's guest. Rachel Oslund, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so excited as well. Just the opportunity to spend time with you is a blast. So
Yes.
thank you. Tell everyone, who are you? What do you provide? Who do you serve?
I'm Rachel Oslund. I own a home inspection company and I serve mostly people who are buying or selling real estate.
Fantastic. I've heard you referred to as America's home inspector. And I'm wondering, first of all, I mean, traditionally, I would imagine, is a male dominated field.
Damn
Is that
straight.
right?
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. Yes.
I mean, so how do you not only become a home inspector, but the home inspector?
Oh my gosh. Well, it all goes back to the days of yore in Wales when my father's father was a stonemason and he was chased out by the unions to the United States. And he
It's
became a mason
amazing.
and a property manager. And my dad learned everything from him growing up. And then when my dad was in the army and retiring from the army, he was like, what can I do? That's the perfect retirement job. Like, I know, point out what's wrong everywhere you go. So he became so he became a home inspector. And he did it with my ex-husband. And they were doing it together. And he was like, Rachel, you would love this. You've got to do this. And I was homeschooling my kids at the time. They were both ready to go to middle school and high school. And so I said, well, okay, I'll try it. I don't know anything about houses, but let me give it a shot. Apparently, I learned from my dad, like he learned from his dad. And I was number 2 in my class. And yes, it was all men. And I learned a ton. It was great. And
Rachel, what
yes,
you said when you started out was so damn funny. When he retired from the army, he wanted to, I'm trying to paraphrase what you said. What am I going to do? I'm to point out everything that's wrong everywhere.
instead of just at my house, you can go to other places.
And point out what was wrong. And then you said, and he started with my husband.
Oh gosh, I didn't even make that connection. Yes. Yes. My ex-husband did it. You're right.
Yes.
That's the connection. Well,
Even more so. Isn't that just so funny? But there is, there's a difference between pointing out everything that's wrong as just the proverbial guy in the diner, wink,
mhm,
wink, and somebody who is truly a subject matter expert, like your father was and his father before him was.
yep.
And so you were there learning how under the tutelage of your father and going through a certification program. Is that how it went?
Yes, yes. So there was my dad owned a franchise and we went through that and we worked together doing that. And my dad and I were inspecting together. And
Wow.
my ex-husband was marketing.
Isn't
And
that amazing?
yeah, and I loved it because it was teaching and it was
Yes.
being able to connect with people and make a difference. Not not feeling disconnected from humanity sitting at a desk or behind a counter or something. This was like really in person. What are you dealing with? How can I support you? How can I make this better for you? And
And
it was
what in yeah, please.
no, go ahead.
I was gonna ask you, you brought up something that I wouldn't have drawn a correlation to, but I know you're mission driven, and I'm wondering what's the most inspiring part for you about inspecting people's homes?
Oh gosh, there are multiple parts and one of them is working with someone who's never owned a home before, whose parents never owned a home, and they've worked so hard to get to this point. And so as a generationally, the first generation to buy a house is, I mean, it's a huge gift. And then I get the honor of coming in and teaching them about the house that they've spent forever working on. I work with a realtor who bought her first house and she recorded herself or had someone record. She was going to the house and with her two daughters, one special needs and her mom who'd never owned a home. And they walked up and were like, yeah, this is a neighborhood I think we would like. She'd already bought the house. She had the keys in her pocket and she walked up and she started opening the door and her mom was like, no, 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 whoa, whoa. And what are you doing? And she unlocked the door and opened it and said, welcome home. And everyone's crying. The person recording it is crying. Her mom's crying. Both of her daughters are losing it. It was just magnificent because they'd worked so hard for it. And so now as she teaches people with differently abled family members and stuff to buy houses as a realtor, she also does home buyer seminars and we do those together. And she shows that video and I just like, what a difference. So the short answer is I love seeing people make their dreams come true and then understand how to maintain them throughout their lifetime.
Rachel, you are extraordinary. I'm tearing up just hearing the story. And one of the things that I've heard you talk about is the different groups of people who come to you for help and make you an honorary speaker or someone in charge of teaching people. There was a recent remind me what it was that you were invited to where you were invited to present.
Uh, there, there are
I know there's so many,
there are
but
actually lots of them. So, but one of them was to help be a founding member, to help found the local chapter for the American Negro Women's Association,
that's just
which
amazing. Now, if
which
you're listening rather than watching the video, Rachel doesn't it happens to be Caucasian and, it doesn't matter. You are somebody who is committed to empowering people,
mhm,
to empowering human beings. It's not just women, it's not just women of color, it's not just first-time home buyers, it's not just the first in generations to be able to fulfill that dream. You empower people,
mhm.
and you're recognized for that. How did that come to be, that particular invitation?
That one came from, I think, being on I led the Fair Housing Committee on a local real estate association. And the person who wanted to start the American Negro Women's Association chapter in our area was on that committee. And so we knew each other very well from that. And so that just came about. And I talked to her in person and I said, we know each other very well. You know that I'm not a Black woman, right? And she just was rolling laughing because she's like, yes, I know, but 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 we need you and people who look like you. And I want you there and we need you. And so I was thrilled that she wanted me there for who I am. And there was also, it made me a little sad about the fact that having a white woman on there may actually lend credibility to, in her eyes,
Mm.
to what she
Yeah,
was trying to start.
we could have an entire episode about that right there.
Hmm.
And let's start where we are with the fact that you are empowering so many people by teaching them how what to afford, how to afford, how what to get into, what not to get into, how to fulfill their dreams. There's walk us through what a day in the life or a week in the life looks like for you. What are some of the most inspiring pieces for you? What are some of the highlights that happen in your
There, well, that's it, it's interesting. One of them is I'm the governor's appointee to the Maryland Commission for Home Inspectors and Appraisers. And so I had a meeting, have a meeting with them, and we rewrote the standards of practice for the home inspectors for the state of Maryland, which is neat. I have a new home inspector. I provide some training for him on our language because the way we write is an empowering way, starting with a verb, and we write very specifically. And so you can have all the home inspector knowledge you want, but you've also got to write the Lodestar way, is what I call it, our way of writing. And so then some training, and then maybe I'll go and do an advanced structural assessment in conjunction with my relationship with a structural engineer. Go look at a property to examine a crack so that someone can get peace of mind about what's happening. And then the next day, maybe do a home inspection, and then meetings where I'm on several equal opportunity committees throughout the state, and the state DEI committee, the advisory group. And so kind of those meetings take place. And I used to shoot pool competitively. So I've shot pool in Vegas a couple of times just for something totally out there
yeah.
that challenged me.
That's amazing.
And then in the morning, I know you know Hal Elrod, um, the Miracle Morning guy. I got to meet him and do some things with people through Cutco, the cutlery people, and his books are so inspiring to me. So every morning I have my time to myself, which is run with the dogs at least a mile and a half and come back and have some time to do some affirmations that are actually empowering, and do a little bit of journaling and sit with my dogs and have a cup of coffee outside on my deck and then or patio, and then get ready for my day. But meetings and meeting with people and talking to them and teaching Zoom classes. This morning I taught a chimney inspection class with one of my inspectors on Zoom. That's a typical day.
Beautiful. So there, you became a home inspector. You're doing that with your father
Mhm.
and your former husband. And there's something that you decided you wanted to give to the world. It's, meeting people one to one and expecting just one house at a time or building at a time wasn't enough for you. What
Mhm.
was the gift that you wanted to give people?
May I be very frank about something first?
Please. I want
Okay.
to, yes, your expertise, your work, your gift. I can't wait to hear this.
Well, thank you. So I was working with my husband and my dad. My husband was a drug addict and alcoholic. And I'd known something was wrong for 15 years, but couldn't put my finger on it. Anyone who's been in a relationship with someone who's addicted to something knows there's some funky stuff going on and it's weird. When we split up, he left and I took over the marketing for my dad. And that was weird because I didn't know how to do it. And what I did with that was I really got to be with agents and with their clients and just talking to them and really getting aware of what people didn't know they didn't know and how that hampered their ability to serve the community. And doing it that working with my dad just didn't quite work. I was doing some small homebuyer seminars and that kind of thing, but through my split with my ex-husband and related to all of the chaos that was happening in our life then, and this was the first 90 days of having started the home inspection company with my dad. In that first 90 days, all of this occurred. And then we had bankruptcy and foreclosure, repossession of my car, all the things. My mother-in-law OD'd on opiates. And the day they repossessed my car, it was like all these things came together. And I had 2 little kids.
Mm.
And all of this was happening. And I was so embarrassed by it. Suddenly I got at some point that the keys to my prison, that the keys that had unlocked my prison could also unlock someone else's prison. If I could share that story, that you can get out of and create anything you want from bankruptcy, foreclosure, repossession. You could buy a house, you can buy a car, you can start a company. And so that was like the beginning. And I know that that's way off topic of your question, but it all leads to, there's a whole lot of people in this country who feel like they're the only one, or that they're less than or viewed as less than because of those things. And if I can give something to people that helps lift them up and get that they're not alone, I've been there too, then that makes my day. That makes my life worthwhile. So when my dad was ready to retire, I started my own company. I called an investor and he was ready in a minute. And we had a handshake agreement the next day. And that was 6.5 years ago. And since then, I've been able to really just create it in a way that is, how can I empower more people? How can I use this? A lot of home inspectors know a lot of stuff. I may not know the most. I don't know the most. There are people who know more than I do. But I come at it from a different way of thinking because I've been in so many places. And I've volunteered over 10,000 hours with realtors. So I get what they're dealing with and what holds them back from serving the community. And I've done over 10,000 hours of home inspections. So I get what clients are dealing with and what home inspectors are dealing with. So how can I bring that together and really create something new?
Wow.
That's how that
It
happened.
is, uh, uh, it's so remarkable to me every time someone volitionally shares that which by default we would think would make us not look good. You know, when you volunteer that, which I would imagine there's something within you saying, "Oh no, hide it, hide that."
Mhm.
And when you share that willingly, it creates such a space for, I can just speak for myself here anecdotally, but I
Mhm.
feel like, "Oh god, I can let my hair down. I can just be myself here.
Yes.
She's not perfect. I don't have to honor that inherent compulsion to be perfect," which is unattainable and illogical and, just
And so human.
and so human, right?
Mhm.
it's such a gift. That kind of raw authenticity and candor is it grants such being to the other person and to yourself. What a gift.
Thank you. It's the space, being able to create a space for people that's safe. I was terrified of it for a long time. And I want to say I heard, I think it was Dr. Phil once said, maybe to you, maybe I saw this on your episode, that was like, not to make you name drop here, but there's, he said something about that which stays in the dark.
Monsters hide in the
Oh
dark.
yes, monsters hide in
Yes.
the dark. And that's, I think I wasn't,
Or monsters live in the dark. Yes,
yes,
excuse me.
monsters live in the dark. And that's what this was. It could have eaten me alive. The shame. I was in real estate and my house was in foreclosure with, burst pipes and frozen pipes, and inspector agents that I work with had their sign in the yard. Like, it was devastatingly embarrassing. And somehow I was able to get that my embarrassment wasn't worth holding on to if my story could be the key to unlock someone else's prison.
Yes. God, that's gracious and
Yep.
so courageous. And man, isn't it an honor to live in this era in which you can be that transparent? I mean,
Yes.
I think back to, we were talking about your father and your grandfather. I'd
Mhm.
lived with my grandmother as a girl, and in those days you didn't talk about anything. You just hid those things.
Mhm.
What a grace that people are embracing the whole of humanity now. I mean, to the degree to which we are, right?
Right.
Reflecting back to the earlier conversation
Right.
about needing to have a white woman on the board, but
But to give it just a little bit more freedom of, look, we've all, and what it boils down to is, and I learned this when I was a child. We had a Vietnamese refugee family live with us, and we're still close friends with them. When they came to live with us from Vietnam in Wisconsin in December, there were four children, their two and our two, my sister and me, and we were about the same age, and none of us spoke the other's languages. And what I got was that there really is what we have in common is far greater than what we have that sets us apart from each other. And so if we can just all work toward the things we want together, that we all want, then then real things can be accomplished. But they wanted to be warm and loved and safe. We wanted to be warm and loved and safe. So why not smile and hold out a doll or whatever it was? And it's as though if you can come together and see the things that you don't agree on and push them away to see the things that you do agree on, then, or that your common goal is, that you can accomplish anything. So why are we fighting the other stuff instead of, is there a fear of this connection? Is that, what is it?
and so here you are helping people feel warm and loved and safe. And you decide, hey, I want to help more people do that. You'd taken on marketing. At what point did you decide, okay, I'm going to become America's home inspector? I'm going to do this on a big scale and build renown for that.
I didn't decide I was going to become America's home inspector. That sort of evolved, but I got that if I was really going to make a difference, I needed to step it up. And if the governor's office wanted me to be on the board, as the governor's appointee, that's a great first step. And how am I going to take this bigger? What can I do? And I think the major thing that I've learned is you've got to get noticed and you got to get on the news and get in like major media publications and stuff like that, that there's a look, the light, all of a sudden it's lit up like, yes, the universe says yes.
If you're
You
on
can't
just
see
the
us.
audio, listening to this conversation on audio, the curtains just blew open on Rachel's side and the screen filled with light. Just really amazing. Yes, truth, speaking truth. So
So
you were
what,
going to have to get out in a big way.
yeah. And I didn't, and I wasn't sure how to do it. So it's like being a big fish in a small pond is great. And I make a difference here. And someone else has mentioned to me, people are not going to give you the value, acknowledge you for the value that you provide in the area that you're from. You need to expand. You won't get paid for teaching classes. And I teach classes every other week on Zoom for agents just to get them better prepared. But people from all over the country come on for that. And no one's that there's the people just get used to you and you're like the kid's sister, basically, in the situation. And so getting out there is a big deal. So I think it's probably been about a year since I started really working toward taking my message more nationally.
And what have been some of the most counterintuitive things that you've learned about getting a message out far and wide?
The first one is to stop questioning what I know. That like I think there's a natural inclination that I had, and I'm guessing other people have, to want to wait till they're perfect, till they know everything. Wait till the perfect moment. And it's, I mean, it's like when getting married or having kids or starting a new job or moving or whatever, you want to wait till the stars are aligned perfectly. I was waiting until I had more certifications, more training, more inspections under my belt. And if you wait till everything's perfect, you'll never do it. And that
Yes.
was what I got for myself, was just that the most counterintuitive was no one has what you've got. So bring it up now, share it now. And I think that's great for everybody.
I need 20,000 hours of home inspections. Uh,
Exactly. Exactly. I was like, maybe I need to have owned this company for 10 years instead of just 4. Yeah. Yeah. So that was one of the biggest ones. And that's something I deal with actively. Imposter syndrome is a short way of saying that. But um another thing is short and concise wins over everything. Be bold, be brief, and be gone, basically. To quote one of my mentors.
that's that is quotable for certain. Be bold, be brief, and be gone. I'd add provide value and be
Hmm.
gone. But
Hmm.
yes. And you provide so much value in ways that are surprising and unexpected. I've heard you coming up with segments and stories and pitches and all this great media about, when there's an earthquake and radon gas leaks. There's so many interesting things that you've been able to create media segments for. Share some of those with us, will you?
Yes, absolutely. So the one is when there's an earthquake or anything that changes the earth, your radon levels change in your house. They could go up or down. People don't think about it because radon's colorless, odorless, tasteless. You don't see it. So it's not something most people think about. So I want to remind people of that. Just keep it in the back of your mind. Test your house. It's simple. Um, Another one is the garbage disposal. And if so many people have garbage disposals that don't work anymore, like we can't use it because it broke. And there's just this Allen wrench that you get, a little wrench, and there's a hole in the bottom of the garbage disposal. A lot of times, if you just put that in and turn it, it will cause the blade to free up and it'll start running again. And there's a reset button down there too. So those are like really basic things that I happen to know that a lot of people don't, which is fun then to share with people. And then mold, talking about mold, because there's just so many
Please.
things.
Yes.
Like if you're like you've got a problem with mold, or someone in your family is having an experience with mold related health issues or something, one of the things that can be an issue is the plants, having lots of plants, because there's dirt and there's soil and
Oh,
moisture.
having lots of plants is a problem?
Yes.
Oh,
So
it's so counterintuitive. I
yes,
thought you would say the converse was true. Have the plants there to purify the air.
and which is great. Absolutely. Unless you've got
Unless.
unless you've got some mold issues for in yourself, in which case that's the first place to look.
Oh my goodness. So I would never have thought about that. I've got a plant that has somewhat a white on the surface, and
Mhm.
I asked my husband about it and said, "Do you think this is some sort of pest? But it's not moving. What do you think this is?" And now, oh my God, I guess it's probably mold. It's in the worst of all possible places, the bedroom.
And if it's
God.
not bothering you, it's fine. And if we have a lot of plants, and my mom died a couple of years ago, and I got all of her plants, and they are just, her spirit must be here because these plants are flourishing. Normally I can't keep a plant alive, but these are growing like crazy. And the we have an air purifier going just because I want to make sure that I mean, it's dirt and it's staying moist.
Yes.
But you don't think about that. So sometimes I'll do a home inspection for someone, and they want to know about mold levels in a house they're going to buy. And I just remind them that with all the plants in there, it's probably going to show higher levels anyway, simply because of that moisture there.
Who knew?
I
You
love
are
talking with
so
you.
brilliant. There's so many counterintuitive things that you bring up. Whenever, there's an earthquake, I remember speaking to you as some were happening and immediately getting on those stories. What any other things that people should keep in mind, particularly ones that are so unexpected?
Well, the one that most people don't expect from me is, and this is just a fun one, if you are in a house and like you're looking at a house and maybe you just don't know what to expect, but you go in, it's abandoned, and it smells a lot like cat urine, it might have been a meth lab. This
Oh,
that is the most popular class I teach across the country, is for home inspectors and for agents, is identifying clandestine drug labs.
and God. And what?
I have a PowerPoint with pictures of bongs on it, and meth pipes, and all different, like, I teach the history of
Wow.
amphetamines, and
And
so
what would be the problem of acquiring a home that had been used for that?
that is the symptoms of exposure to meth lab residue. That's the
No.
issue. And people get, now you're going to have to Google this because there's a ton of interesting stuff, but the symptoms are like lead paint exposure, headaches, nausea. I had two real estate agents in this class when I was teaching them. They had shown a house and were helping a woman in her 70s move to live with her younger daughter in Florida because the mom had dementia. These two agents were at her house, these real estate agents, helping her declutter and stage the place. What they noticed was every time they were there, they got sick. They had a headache and felt nauseous. And what it turned out to be was the house next door was being used as a meth lab.
Oh, God.
And the two of them walked around the house. When they didn't know what it was, but it looked like it was for sale. They walked around the house to look around it. And as one was walking around the back, she tripped and fell. And well, first of all the windows had been blocked off with bricks, in the basement windows. But then she got around and she tripped and fell and landed on a rain barrel. And the rain barrel tipped up. And when it tipped up, she realized there was no base to it. These people were venting
Oh my
the
gosh. Yes.
noxious fumes from the basement up through the rain barrel and up. So it looked like a downspout, right up through the gutter and up. And they were getting sick next door. And the woman had long-term effects from that exposure. When she moved to Florida, after a few years, she was completely fine. No symptoms of dementia.
That is remarkable. You are such a wealth of experience. It is no wonder your clients love you, the media loves you. You make such a difference. You're a delight.
Thank you for having me. It's been wonderful. I
It
love
is
talking with you.
it is such a joy. Is there anything you'd like to leave people with?
Let your story unlock other people's prisons through your kindness, vulnerability, and generosity.
Outstanding. Where can people get in touch with you, Rachel?
Our website is lodestarinspections.com. And if you
And that's
can't,
Lode star,
yes.
correct? Okay.
Yep. And the one way to remember that is a lodestar is a light that guides you home. And that's why I chose the name.
That is perfection. We will have that in the episode notes.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
I hope you enjoyed sitting down with Rachel as much as I did interviewing her. Join us next week as I bring you yet another person who is using their message and their life's work to make a difference in the quality of the lives of the people that they serve. I will see you then. Thanks for joining. If you enjoyed this, please like, subscribe, and share this episode with everyone that you feel it would benefit. Thank you in advance. And when you're ready to share your story and your work with the world, I can help. Visit CherylHunter.com to learn how. I am Cheryl Hunter, and until next time, know that your message has the power to change the world.